Well, howdy, it's your old pal Kevin, and today I thought I would do a great service to the internets by doing a little walkthrough review explanation of some of AquaComputer's best products. These are going to be their hubs. We've got a Farborg 360 RGB hub. There are other Farborg hubs, but I don't do the 12 volt RGB stuff, so I'll just be sticking with this one. We got the USB Hub 7, and then 3 different kinds of fan splitters. There is a fourth, the Splitty 12 active, but that's kind of difficult to get a hold of and not really relevant. So go over these right now, and then come back with another video with the Octo and the Aquaro 6 Pro. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'll start with the Hub 7, which is far more versatile than your standard internal USB hub. For one, you can switch between SATA and USB power. I've got a SATA cable plugged in, and then I've got the USB, which is going to go to the motherboard header. Little known secret, these 2 rows are essentially identical. This longer one with 5 pins just has 2 black cables. I believe that's an extra ground. I'd have to look that up and double check, but you don't need it. So that's why this is able to do 7 devices instead of just 3 and then 1 of those. So you can plug a single row USB internal down there and get your 7 out of it, which is great. I love it. That's how I generally do it. Some devices like Corsair RGB hubs, they have both rows that they take up. That, I believe, just gives them more power and perhaps more bandwidth. I'd have to look that up, but basically you get 7 headers out of it simply by going with single rows. So great product, really reliable, really versatile, cannot recommend it enough. Next up for you, I've got the Farborg 360 RGB controller hub. This is absolutely by far the best RGB product on the market. There's no comparison. Here is why. To be clear, this is for the 3-pin 5-volt variety of RGB. I don't venture into the 12-volt, but they do make products for that, including a Bluetooth one that you can control with your phone. Obviously, since I don't do 12-volt RGB, I've never tried it. But for starters, this is called the 360 because every channel of RGB, no matter who makes it, has a limit on how many LEDs their headers can support. In terms of this, it's 90 per header, so a total of 360, which is really pretty useful. The only things you can't really control with that are the Corsair QL fans individually. Those have, I think, 111 LEDs in each one, and then obviously the Lee and Lee streamers have 120 per device. So first of all, we got Molex for power. A lot of people don't like Molex, but I disagree. Molex is the best. So that's nice and simple. We've also got USB. It is AquaComputer's sort of proprietary mini USB plug, which is really convenient and really small and easy to work with. Just a warning though, these fray and break off very easily, and if they do, there's really no repairing them unless you're an ant. Like the pins are just impossible to replace on those. So, small warning. That goes back to like the motherboard or the USB hub, like the Hub 7 I just showed you, to communicate with the computer. But a nice feature is that this will continue to power and display the effects that you set, even if the software is not running. So that's another reason it's head and shoulders above something like the Corsair Lighting Node Pro, which you have to have the software running. Otherwise, it has the more basic hardware effect that you set in iCUE, if you can get that far. Anyway, oh, and yes, you do have to use AquaSuite, which is free and wonderful to set these. So now that we've gone that far, there are also 4 temperature sensors, which there's a number of reasons for that. There's the 4 temperature sensors and a flow sensor. That it isn't required, but it makes it a lot easier to kind of have your network of Aquabus devices throughout your computer just more closely connected to things. Just a unique kind of handy tool. To utilize stuff like that, you need the Aquabus connector. Get in there, little guy. Which I think is actually just a glorified USB, but made to look like a PWM. Anyway, you get that connected in there, and what that allows you to do is have all of your AquaComputer devices communicating with each other. So if you want to base your lighting effect on the temperature of the CPU or how fast your fluid is flowing, this allows you to do that. Now let's get to the even better part. So what makes this so versatile is the fact that it does, of course, have AquaComputer's proprietary RGB-PX, which are great little cables. They're really easy to work with, and they're the same tiny connector technology. And that's all fine and good. That connects to AquaComputer devices, no problem. But it also has the trick of its sleeve of being 3-pin 5-volt. So I believe that when you have these both plugged in, it just splits the header to 45 LEDs each. But don't quote me on that. I've tried it and I haven't seen it happen, but I've read multiple times that that's how that's supposed to go. So anyway, you can use the RGB-PX, or you can use the regular 3-pin 5-volt, and you can adapt that to whatever proprietary plug you can dream of. So as these are all fan splitters, let me go ahead and introduce them all together at once. The Splitty 4, the Splitty 9, and the Splitty 9 Active. Like I mentioned, there's a Splitty 12 Active, but it's almost impossible to get a hold of, and I don't know that it's actually worth the trouble. So, the most basic of them is the Splitty 9. This can be used for two things. It can be an Aquabus hub, so you take the jumper and just move it over there, and that allows you to connect all of your Aquabus devices into this hub and then control it via software. That's useful for if you have multiple Farborg 360s and like a flow meter, and what else? Like a leak shield, just other AquaComputer products that you want communicating together. This will function as a hub for that. Also, it is your basic 9-fan hub. So you've got your PWM input, the one that reads back the RPM, and that's it, other than the jumper. It comes with a nice rubber back. That's that. Let's move on now. Next up, we've got the Splitty 4, which is both a fan hub and an RGB sort of hub device. It's fairly unique in what it does. So obviously 4 fans can be plugged into it with PWM signals. Real simple. Got your input and then your 4 headers. Pretty simple, like I said. You can also, for instance, instead of using the Corsair RGB hub that comes with the LL, QL, like I said, QL fans, not going to work because there's simply too many LEDs, but everything else I think is fair game. You can do both the PWM cables on those fans and the RGB, and then you would usually use the RGB-PX and control that with AquaSuite, but if you're good with adapters, you could plug this into a Corsair RGB product and still control the fans that way and have it condensed into just one simple splitter hub deal. On top of that, you can also do NZXT fans with their RGB. That's pretty cool because NZXT RGB is extremely confusing, and just the proprietary design of it is the pain in the butt. On top of that, you have, of course, the 3-pin 5-volt, which is what I generally use these for. I'll have my regular 3-pin 5-volt Fantex Halos, for instance, plug them into that, and then run an RGB PX cable out to control them from AquaSuite. So really cool little product in that you can control many different types of proprietary fans. Lastly, we have the Splitty 9 Active. So if you are using fans that require more power than the headers will allow, this will give you 54 watts or a total of 4.5 amps, which is pretty significant. You do have to have the SATA connected, because if you don't, then it just becomes a regular Splitty 9 for the most part. But yeah, you've got your regular PWM input, the RPN, and then the 8 other headers. Now, it's also got a red light that indicates when the fans are being powered via SATA. So you can adjust them with this knob so that you can, for instance, make the fans go to 0 RPM, which is frequently a problem with hubs. So you got a bunch plugged in there, you just simply turn this until the light turns red, and then you know the fans are all being adequately powered via SATA. So this is really cool when you need to have more fans plugged into a single hub than you otherwise normally would. So do love it. Have not had the best results with the SATA plug. That tends to break off in my experience. You got to be very careful with them, but hey, that's just another reason I really prefer Molex. So that was the AquaComputer family of hubs and splitters for USB, RGB, and fans. If you have any questions about any of these, feel free to leave a comment and I will attempt to answer it the best I can. I know there's not a lot of AquaComputer product content out there, so I wanted to try and assist in fixing that problem with some simple walkthroughs on these. So, thanks for watching.